Yeah, tonight we are going to run through it'll take us about 30 minutes or so. We're going to run through some lower back mobility, some activation, and some stretch work, basically. And what my hope is from tonight is to help you be real specific with these exercises, because they're common exercises. They're not, they're not fancy exercises or anything new or anything you haven't really done before, but really getting the intent behind them is kind of the key to get the most out of these kind of things. So the way we're going to structure it is we're going to start with some more dynamic work. So this will be mobility based, meaning that we're moving without really holding any position, just through large ranges of motion. We'll talk about why and when those kind of exercises work well. Then we'll get into a little bit of activation work tonight, because activation work can very well help with our pain, and it can very well help with our mobility. Our joints rely on muscles to be active and strong to support them through range of motion. So we can absolutely use activation as a form of a way to improve our mobility or flexibility. And then we're going to spend probably longer period of our time in our stretch section, which is actually going to be longer hold stretches. So you guys will know this stuff quite well. A few of you have done a lot of it as well. But I'm going to drop a few little concepts and a bit more of the sciencey stuff, I guess, behind it. And hopefully that just gives you kind of further insight into it and help you ideally get the most out of it as well. So make sure you've got a little bit of space around you, obviously. We don't need a huge amount of space, really just a few square meters. One of the stretches you'll see in the email, we are going to use like a towel or a band or something like that. So if you have one of those handy, grab that. If you don't and you quickly just want to go grab a towel or something, obviously do that as well, because we'll use that for one of our long hold stretches. Now, again, if there's any questions, leave them in the chat, or if you just want to audio, just chat away. I'll kind of go back and forth. I actually do find the Zoom sessions, I quite like them in theory, but in practice, it's a bit weird talking into a computer and seeing like teeny tiny faces at the top and not you guys in person. So if any technical stuff pops up or we have questions, just let me know and I'll intimately check it all as well. So the first thing with all of this stuff, and again, for any back to investors, you'll know these kind of rules roughly, but I like to sometimes talk about 3 rules when it comes to working with pain and improving our mobility. And the first cardinal rule is listening to your body. Your body never lies. It will always be the thing that gives you the best and most direct feedback, whether that is through pain, whether that is through stiffness, whether that is through some other sensation. If we listen to what the body tells us, we will very often find that we can make the right decisions around it, when to push through it or when to peel back from it. A big part of listening to your body, though, actually is being very mindful about what you're doing. So trying not to be distracted, doing things without music in your ears, or at least, blaring music, not listening to a podcast or an audio book. While there's times to do that, when we're doing kind of more focused stuff like this, it can be pretty worthwhile just enjoying the quiet and enjoying a bit of that kind of mindful time. So to get the most out of this stuff, we want to be quite mindful with what we do, and the best way to listen to our body, obviously, is through more mindfulness-based movement. Second rule is that less is more. So with a lot of the stuff we're going to run through, we don't need to jump right in and do the heaviest stretch we could possibly do, or move through the largest range possible, or get as much activation as possible straight away. We can often just start and then just gradually increase. And it's kind of like getting into a hot bathtub. So a few of you may have heard me use this analogy before, but we don't want to always just jump right in. We're going to shock the system that way. It's certainly one way you can do it, but if you think about getting into a hot bathtub, you can absolutely jump in pretty quick, but you're going to suffer for a few minutes until your body acclimatizes. What we really want to do is kind of dip our foot in the water, let the body get used to that temperature, then kind of partially dip in, and then eventually just fully immerse yourself. And through our mobility and our stretching and our activation, I want you to have that in the back of your mind, that you're just going to kind of prime the body a little bit, let it get used to it. And then once it's getting used to it, you can push it a bit further and a bit further. And that will be mainly apparent with our long hold stretches we're going to do at the end, which we'll touch back on this topic as well. And the third rule is kind of coming back to just that focus component. So mindfulness and focused, deliberate practice is the word commonly used in the scientific research. So deliberately practicing the stuff with good intent. So it's similar to the mindfulness stuff. It's similar to the listening to your body, but knowing what you're doing, why you're doing that exercise, and how to get the most out of it is key. And that's what I'm going to help you with the most tonight. Well, that's what I'm going to aim to help you with the most tonight. So we are going to, this will be the structure of the evening. We're going to start with breath work. I'm going to teach you how to breathe. We're then going to take that breath work into mobility work, into a bit of activation work, and then into our stretch work. And that should take us roughly half an hour or so. And then at the end, if there's any questions, we can address any of that as well. And then lastly, just before we jump into that, I will run these kind of on probably a monthly 4 to 6 week kind of basis. Our next one we're going to do is going to be around hamstrings and hip flexors. So we're specifically going to do about a half-hour session on really digging in and getting our flexibility, activation work, all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be basically a deep dive on that. So keep an eye out for that. I'll email and do some social media posts on that. So we're going to start with our breath work. And the way I like to think about our breath work, it's kind of like a dimmer switch. Breath work allows us to kind of hone in on what we feel in the body. It allows us to really kind of dim down sensations through the body and really kind of build it, build that body awareness. Sorry, I'm at the end of like a 12-hour day, so my words are escaping me. But it is going to be really about building that awareness. And throughout this session, we're going to focus on the breath. So let's start on our back, ideally. So if you're happy to hop onto your back, that'd be great. Someone back in here. And we are going to lay on our back. Just make sure you can still hear me. I do have a microphone, so it should be fine. Knees bent, head rested, and hands are going to be on our stomach. And the way that we're going to breathe is we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. So you'll hear this nicely, hopefully through the microphone. It's going to sound a bit like this. So it's an open mouth exhale. In through the nose, exhaling out through your mouth. And the reason we do an exhale out through our mouth is it actually helps us relax a bit more. So if we just naturally kind of let it come out, you'll find you'll relax your body a little bit better. Now, hands, they're going to be on our belly, because what we want to do with our breath is we want to do something called diaphragmatic breathing. So that is breathing deep into our abdomen. So as we breathe in, we should feel our hands raise with our tummy. We don't want to feel too much shoulder raising or chest raising. We really want to, if you watch my belly here, kind of have like a pregnant belly kind of feel to it. So let's practice 3 breaths. Breathing in through your nose, exhaling through your open mouth, focusing on trying to breathe deeply into your abdomen. So now that you've kind of felt that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a body scan. So we're just going to check in on where we're feeling tension. Because often we'll be in these positions, and we're still kind of holding tension in our shoulders, or we're clenching our jaw a bit, or for people with back pain, often our glutes are a little bit tight, or we're squeezing them unconsciously, we're tightening our core. So let's do 3 deep breaths, and we're going to close our eyes. And we're going to just do a little body scan. So we're first going to start, I'm just getting some awareness on if there's any muscular tension around the jaw or the neck. Then we're going to work down to our shoulders. We're then going to just check in on our lower back. Eyes closed work so we can get a bit more of a, so eyes closed, it's breathing in. I'll guide you through this as well. So you just start your breath. Just checking on our jaw. Make sure your jaw feels nice and soft and relaxed. Your facial muscles are nice and relaxed. Really feel like the weight of your head feels completely supported by the floor. You're not holding tension in your neck at all. Then we'll work our way down to our shoulders, to our traps. I want you to again feel your shoulders get heavy into the ground. Make sure you're not holding any tension there. And work our way down through our ribs, making sure we're feeling relaxed through the mid-back, relaxed through the torso. Relax, feel our lower back muscles kind of melt away. So feel your spine just relax into the ground. The beauty of the ground is we can really just 100% rely on that for support. And then finally, just glutes, let go, just let them completely relax, feel completely soft into the ground. Just take 2 more breaths, through the nose, out through the mouth. Now we do this because it shows us that we have a lot of control over our muscle contraction, and often with pain, unbeknownst to us, we will hold that kind of tension through there. So this is a beautiful way just to observe and just see where you naturally hold tension, even in that relaxed state. So when we have pain, is kind of going back to that dimmer switch analogy, our brain is in an alert state when we have pain and tension. This is whether it's lots of pain or just a little bit. And the breath work is that dimmer switch to kind of dull down that alarm system to ultimately try switch it off a little bit and get that relaxation. So before we move on, if there are any questions around the breath work, just speak through the microphone, let me know. Anybody who has it, 10 seconds or so if you have a question. And then we're going to get into the mobility side of things. Hopefully everyone's still awake. The problem with starting with the breath work is that it makes you nice and relaxed and nice and tired. So let's start with our pelvic tilt. So we're going to think about our breath work through this component. So we're going to start onto our hands and our knees for this first exercise. And mobility-wise, what we're really aiming for, because there's often a lot of confusion about mobility or flexibility and things like that. Mobility for me is actually moving joints through your range of motion and trying to move them through as large a range of motion as you comfortably can. Flexibility is around tissue extensibility, more like your muscles stretching. So often for the batch investors, you'll know this, we start with more dynamic things, mobility-based work, taking our joints through their range of motion. So we're going to be on hands and knees, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And we are going to start by mobilizing just our lower backs. This is similar to our cat stretch, except we are going to start by tilting our pelvis forward and curving just the lower back. So we don't have to do the whole mid back. I want you to try and isolate it, just the lower back. And just start small. It's the quality of this more than anything. So I want this to start small. You can go eyes closed if you like. You can go with that same kind of breath. So I'm going to work through breath now. What I like to do is I like to kind of breathe in on the grounding. Breathe out. If you have any pain, you just want to go to it, not through it. So I don't want to force. And for some people, kind of getting into full extension can be a bit heavy on the joints. Others it's on the full rounding. So just when you go into your comfort range, what you'll probably find is within that comfort zone, the body slowly allows you more force, I think it's the bathtub, jump right in and force into big ranges that you might not be comfortable with. Rather, we want to just dip our toe in and just start small. The analogy we often use is greasing the groove. So greasing the groove literally just means run through motions until you have more of the groove, or you have more of a range. Let's just run through another 5. Go into the full cat stretch from here. So we're going to do the exact same motion, but we're going to start to incorporate the spine back of the neck. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to now round. Still focusing on that lower back. When you get to the top, push your hands into the ground to get a bit of a mid-back stretch. When you get to the bottom, pull your palms as if you're trying to get them towards your knees. You don't want to move anything, but as if you're trying to get your palms towards your knees. That gives you a bit more leverage to get a bit more of a stretch. Now our neck is coming with it as well. So chin to chest on the rounding. And eyes up to the ceiling. Keep going there. Let's do a few more reps there. Beautiful. Okay. So that's the pelvic tilts cat stretch. It's there to segmentally teach you how to move your individual segments through your lower back. We're then going to go into our scorpion. One of my favorite exercises because it incorporates a bit of activation, but it also helps us get the SI joints down low in the back. So for this one, we're going to start on our tummy. I personally like straight arms. Some people prefer bent elbows. So completely up to you here. We're going to take our right leg. We're going to lift up, and we're going to lead with that heel. We're trying. I'll show you the other side in a moment. We're trying to get the heel down towards the ground. We'll show the other side, so we're engaged. Knee bend to 90 degrees. Lift and reach it across. Roll your spine and pulse with it to get down to the ground. Again, I prefer this position, so I'm going to do a few more here. 90 degrees. Bend and roll. You may even get a bit of a stretch on the hip flexor if you can tight there. Just going to go back and forth. Nice, comfortable, mindful focus. If you can't get all the way, just going as far as you comfortably can. Side to side. Back to that breath work. So the key with the mobility, keep going on, just going to chat away. The key with the mobility on that breath work is we want to stay really soft and relaxed. If we're holding our breath, we end up being very rigid, and that means we can't take our range of motion, make our range of motion as large as we'd like to. So we kind of want to think about being almost like what's termed sometimes a wet noodle, which is just to have that real floppiness to you. You've got to have a little bit of stiffness to guide the motion, but ultimately we don't want to be too rigid or stiff or locked up. We're trying to be as relaxed and fluid as possible with this kind of stuff. So I'm going to let you just do one more on each side. Now, the next thing we're going to go to is we're going to go to our windscreen wiper. So again, a few of you will know, absolute favorite of mine. But I'm going to give you a few more tips on how to get a bit more out of it. So windscreen wiper, you're on your back.
Arms are out with your palms down on the ground. I'll show you two options. Option one, which is the ideal option, is knees up at about 90 degrees. The easier option that's too hard is you'll have your feet on the ground, but I'll show you both. So what we're going to do here is we're going to let our knees roll off to one side. And I'm going to aim for my knee to aim towards this hand here. So kind of going down and up as well. And this adds a bit more stretch. So this right arm. We're going to go from side to side. Slow and control, in line with your breath work. This one's a little harder on the breath, just because you've got the twisting happening. Do your best, just keep everything relaxed, smooth. So as you go down to your side, you also bring the knees up a little bit as if you're trying to get to your hand on that side. And if having feet up in the air is too challenging, you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to keep your feet on the ground. Roll from side to side. Now, something I like to add into the Windstream wiper is turning my head as well. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go down to the side, but simultaneously, we're going to turn our head the opposite way. And it might not sound like much, but when you do it, you will feel like it just adds a lot more tension to the stretch in a good way. Let's just address the spine motion. Side to side. Now, the last exercise we're going to do in our dynamic stuff is going to be an exercise called the shin box. So the shin box is, again, one of my favorite exercises for the hip side of things. Now, there's a few ways we can do them, but we're going to start nice and easy, and then I'll show you some harder ones for those who can do the harder ones, and those who can't, it's fine, you just do whatever is most challenging for you. We are going to sit in this position here. So, we want that front shin about parallel to our torso. We can have a little bit of space. I don't mind if your knee touches your hip, it doesn't matter too much, but enough space through here. You might feel a bit of a stretch in the groin. And then what we want to do is ideally be nice and upright, nice and comfortable. If you need extra support, just pop your hands behind you like that, and you can kind of prop yourself up a little bit. And what we're going to do here is we are then going to rotate. So we can use our hands for support. You can lean back into it if we need to. We're going to rotate across. And effectively what happens is your feet are staying in the same position. So your feet do not move. We are going to use our hands behind our back, and they're going to go into this position. And then you can finish nice and tall. If you want, if you can finish without your hands on the ground. Transition from side to side. And again, front of mind is our breath work. Staying nice and relaxed through the rest of the body, so not too rigid. Commonly people get quite rigid in this one of the shoulders actually. Rotate from side to side. And if you're up for it, you can do it without hand support. Hands out in front. Obviously makes it a fair bit more challenging. Makes it a little bit more. Let's go side to side. One more on each side. So nice and tall at the top of each. Always going back to your breath work. Not really doing it as I talk. But obviously, when you do this kind of stuff, you don't have to talk. You can focus a bit more on the breath. Are there any questions around any of the dynamic mobility of the spine and hips there?
Did anyone else move about 2 feet forward in that last one?
Yeah. So the shin box, you kind of end up yeah. Someone in the program the other day described it like it's a bit crude, but a bit like a dog kind of like wiping their butt and doing that kind of motion. So yes, you certainly do move forward a little bit there. All right, so the next thing we're going to go into, we're not going to spend too much time on this. I definitely will do another webinar more on like deep activation and strength, but there's a few kind of key ones that I think are really worth addressing. So we are now going to do some of our activation work. And as I was saying before, activation is important because the more active those muscles are, the better that they control our joints. And also the stronger they are, especially when trained appropriately, they can absolutely help with your mobility as well. So we're going to do 2 exercises. We're going to do 3 exercises actually. The first one we're going to do is we're going to do a bridge hold. So this bridge hold is a way to get the deep glute muscles nice and active. And the way that we're going to do it tonight is we're actually going to do feet together. So as I do my bridge, my feet are going to be in this position here. Show you that on this side. Bridge. So now we're going to go hands on the ground. My feet are together. My knees are just outside of hip width apart. So that's my setup there. We're going to do a 10-second hold. I actually like my toes coming off the ground a bit. I'm not too fussed if you want to have flat feet or toes up. But what we're going to do is we're going to go right up. Knees are going outwards as I go up, squeezing our glutes together. We're going to hang there for 10 seconds, or let's go for maybe 3 breaths. So pushing through your heels, get the hips nice and high. Take 3 breaths. I want everything but your glutes switched on. Another way around, I want your glutes and everything else switched off. So lots of activation, and then let's slowly come back down. Now, if there's any discomfort at the top, just drop down a little bit. So let's go again. Feet are together, toes are off the ground, a little bit of support with our hands, right into the ground. Knees are going to push outwards, and we should feel a fair bit of activation in the deep glutes there. So holding hips nice and high. This helps with our hip extension. Everything else relaxed. Back down. And we're going to finish off with one last one. 10-second hold. Right. Hips as high as you can get them. Your knees go outwards. Squeezing your groin between your butt cheek. Good way to test is if you feel quite relaxed through your arms there. So that, a bit of activation, you should really feel them fire up. Again, talk up if anyone's not really feeling much activation there. But the purpose is just to light them up and warm you up a little bit in that way as well. So that's activation exercise number 1. By the way, in the program I've sent, this is all in there plus more as well. Activation exercise number 2 is called a bird dog hold. So for this particular one, we're going to be on hands and knees. One hand under hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. We're going to take our arm and our leg, opposite arm, opposite leg. So I've got my left arm out, my right leg down. And I'm going to drive. Now what I'm thinking about with my leg is like I've got a heavy box. I'm using my heel to push that box back. I'm now reaching my fingers forward and I'm pushing through my right hand or the hand that's on the ground. We're just going to activate it. We'll feel a bit in the lower back, a bit in the core. Hold for 10 seconds as well. Heel and fingers far from each other. Back to the ground. To the other side. Push heavy box with your heel back. Reach fingers forward. Push strong through your down hand, the hand that's on the ground. 5, 4, 3, 2. Another one on the other side. Reach. It's quite taxing, these ones. Again, it gets harder for the breath work, of course.
One last one. So you may feel that a bit in the hammy. Ideally with those ones, we're looking to feel that a bit more in the back and a little bit in the glutes. It's a really good posterior chain activation exercise. Anybody have any issues with that at all? Most people are pretty good. Yeah, so I'm just checking one thing. All right, I think actually activation, we're going to leave it at those two. Now there is more in the program, but for now we're going to go just with those two. I want to spend a little bit more time on the flexibility front tonight. So we're going to now move into that stretch component. There's a few things about stretching that I think people get wrong. It's definitely something that I never used to appreciate stretching maybe as much as I should have. Definitely the last few years, I've certainly turned my my position on how important stretching and good stretching is for back pain, obviously for flexibility as well. But here's the kind of factors or the principles that really we want to focus on with our stretches. So stretching should be done for about a minimum of 90 seconds. It depends on the muscle group, but from a research point of view, 90 seconds, even up to about 5 minutes. You're not going to do that long for every muscle group, but the big muscle groups like your hamstrings and your quads and your glutes and your lats, they can take a little bit of beating in the stretching work. So we want to make sure that we really give enough time under tension to get the true benefit of our stretching. Most people will stretch for maybe 10, 20 seconds. If we're lucky, we'll get 30 or 45 seconds out of them. But the reality is, if we can hold from 90 seconds to 4 or 5 minutes, we get tremendous benefits out of it. It's kind of like strength training in the fact that if the weight is too light or you're doing too few reps, it's not going to stimulate much of a change. But if you find that right load at the right amount of reps that challenges that body, it gets stronger. It creates a positive adaptation. So stretching to me is often underdone, and we're going to focus a fair bit tonight on how to get the most out of it. So we are going to start firstly with something called a lizard stretch. I'm just going to get my timer here. And we're going to run through it. Your lizard stretch is for your hip flexors and for your quads. It's going to open up your hip joint on the front leg. It's going to get length through the back leg. So for this one, we are going to start. We are going to start with both hands on the ground. We're going to take our right leg, and it's going to come to the outside of my hand. So if I just show you from the front view, this is my position here. So right leg, right hand, and we're just like that. From here, we're going to take our back leg and we're going to move our knee backwards, our left knee or my back knee. And I'm actually at the same time going to move my front knee forward a little bit. So we're creating a little bit of torsion, tension. And then finally, we're going to get up a little bit like a lizard and we're going to lift our chest up. Now, what we should be feeling is a stretch on our back hip flexor. So we should feel that in this part of the flexor. I'll do this so we can see better. So we should feel a nice big stretch through here. You might feel a bit of stretch on the front leg as well. And if you want to add a little bit more to this, you can lift that back leg. My suggestion for most of you is just to keep that back leg down. And we're going to hang out here. So we're going to actually do a 90-second hold in this position. Over time, as you get more tolerant to these things, you can just work your way up to 2 minutes and 3 minutes per side. So we're going to practice our deep breathing in this position. So going back to our breathing foundations, it's a deep breath in, really relaxing the breath out. Really try to get that putting out. Keep your eyes up in the stretch as well. As soon as you start to look down, you're more likely to kind of shrug and lose your spine position. If you keep your eyes up, you're more likely to stay nice and still. If you can, just like release that hot bathtub. Seconds to go. When we come out of these stretches, we're going to come out slowly. So just with your hands, walk your hands back. That your flexible kind of release. You don't want to come out of those stretches fast. Now we're going to shift to the other side. So this time, we're going to go right leg forward. Hands are going to go down on the ground, same position. And then we're going to work our knee back as we push our front knee forward. We're going to then start nice and tall. That's how we're going. And breathing in that position. Use your body scan as well. There will be areas you're going to have a bit of tension naturally, just because we're holding a position. However, if you can, relax one. Relax your leg that's been stretched. Relax your shoulders as best you can. Nice and loose up in the neck. Increase that stretch if you want. If you want to take that back off the ground for a big gap, so you can. So 5 more seconds. And then we're just going to work our way slowly. So use your hands. Slow, 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 slow. Slow. So, if we stretch correctly, as we come out, we should feel a little bit vulnerable to the area we've just stretched. Not that we want to necessarily, but if we hit it right, it should have that intensity that when you come out, you can kind of just feel like you just want to go a bit slowly out of it. That's what we're looking for. So we've got the duration, which is 90 seconds. We want an intensity that is about 7 out of 10. And so what does that really mean? Is that we want to feel like we are really having a good stretch. So we should feel like it's a deep stretch. It shouldn't be so heavy that you can't maintain that diaphragmatic breathing. So it's just finding that balance of if it's too heavy, we have to hold that breath because it's so, the body is then in a bit of a protective state. But if we can maintain relaxed breathing through an intense stretch, that's the balance we're kind of looking for. So with that said, we're now going to move into our glutes. So we're going to do a supine glute stretch. So for this one, we're on our back. We're going to extend our left leg to begin with. We're going to take our right leg. We're going to roll and rotate. I'll show you a different position in a second. My other hand is on the ground. Roll and rotate, roll and rotate. And looking to my opposite arm, so try to create some twist through the spine. That's where we're at. I'll just show you it's in front view here. So right leg rotates, hand is outreach. This one, we're looking to feel a deep stretch on the outer glute of the right leg. This is also adding a nice component to the spinal ability to rotate as well. So we're going to be here now. We've got a 2-minute stretch here. We're going to focus on that deep breathing. With every exhale, try to really relax. This is a nice one because you're actually soften away into some people get a bit of pinching in the groin. So if you do, you can just play around different angles, lift the knee a little bit higher if you need to. Generally that helps it. Sometimes for some people it's lower. Just play around. The main thing is that we find a stretch on the body. Deep breathing. Second. All right, now so again, slowly coming out of that stretch. Ease your way out. And I'll just tweak the stretch on the other side, just on your back. And just a little bit of motion, just wave your hips a little bit, your knees from side to side. We're going to swap legs. So we're going to take our left leg this time. Right hand goes on the outside of the leg. We're going to roll, rotate. Arm goes out to the side, head facing that side. Deep breathing in this position. Again, if you feel a bit stiff, a bit rigid, just back off a little bit. Okay, just go back to that bathtub analogy. Ease into it. So nice for quite a bit of time. Just think of that right here, everything is right, and just focus on really softening the shoulders, really relaxing the neck. Listen to your symptoms as well. Listen to the intensity of the stretch. Take notice of it. Something interesting happens when you focus on discomfort. Sometimes when you focus on it, it can actually start to disappear. Interesting phenomenon. Focusing on it. Accelerates the sensation actually takes it away a little bit faster. This is the beauty of this more mindfulness-based approach to this stuff. Pick up on all the little things that fly under the radar, if you like. This is one of the reasons I love stretching in general, is that even when you don't have pain or discomfort, you may pick up on things before they turn into something. Now, when you come out of the stretch, slowly, 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 just find the middle ground on your back and just walk those knees. All right. Now, this is where our belt and our towel come in. So we are going to work on 2 more stretches to go. We are going to do a hamstring stretch, and then we're going to do a thoracic extension stretch. So our hamstring stretch, we are going to do a double leg hamstring. Okay? So we're going to take our towel, and it's going to go around our midfoot. And we're going to go into this position here. So with your towel, whatever you have, you're going to hold tight on it. These belts work great, so they kind of end up in my canvas. This is called a double leg hash attach. And so we're going to use all of our same concept, hold in this position for 2 minutes. So anyone have any questions on this setup at all? Just throw it out if you do. We are going to bring our knees up, legs as straight as you can. We want to feel a stretch through this part of the hamstring. So for some people, actually bending your knees a little bit more will give you that stretch through here. A lot of people, including myself, get more neural tension, which is more behind the knee. So that often happens if it's completely locked out. So if you can find that middle ground where you feel it more as like a meaty stretch. This kind of one is you get that the weight of your hands almost pull you in, so this with a belt or a band. So what actually happens when we stretch is quite an interesting thing. Muscles and our tendons, we've got what's called stretch receptors. Stretch receptors are part of our nervous system, and they send information up to the brain about how much stretch is being applied to that particular tissue. Now, they are trainable. Just like every other part of our muscle, really, we can train these tissues to be less intense. This is where, why we lose flexibility often over time is we don't use those end ranges very often. So they naturally become more sensitive to stretch, meaning that you feel stiffer and tighter all the time. But if you get into a good practice of stretching properly, we get to dull down those stretch receptors, meaning that while they will feel intense at a certain point, for the most part, it becomes further and further or deeper and deeper into the stretch. So this is where the sciencey side of things comes in, because they really only kick in after a good 90 seconds of stretching where they start to dial down, which is a really interesting thing, because it means when we're doing like a 20 or a 30-second stretch, we might not be hitting that threshold, but then helps them actually acclimatize and desensitize a little bit. And so often we don't, when we stretch, we don't get the full benefit out of what we would like to. Got a few more seconds here. And to come out of this, we're going to bend our knees down to the ground. Again, let's just kind of shake our legs out, so one leg at a time, just straighten your leg, just wobble it from side to side just to get some blood flow back there. But those stretch receptors are fascinating because that literally is a little insight into our local nervous system down at the level of the muscle. And we can train them to not be as tight and not be as sensitive. And for a lot of people, that can equate to not as much pain. So understanding that helps us understand why stretching is so pivotal. Not only that it doesn't feel good, but it is literally changing the sensations that you feel through your body. But we have to get the right intensity and we have to get the right hold time. Now we've got one last stretch. This is called a puppy dog stretch. And this stretch is a little bit for your lats and for your mid-back. So to perform the puppy dog stretch, we are going to come down into this position. We want to keep our hips above our knees. So hips are staying above our knees. We're going to come down until our head is rested on the ground. And then we're going to wiggle our arms and forward. And this stretch. Stay there. This stretch we should feel in our lats. Obviously, we're resting our head there, so if your head gets a bit uncomfortable, you can always just find a better position or get a little towel underneath your forehead if you need to. And it's for our mid-back, for our thoracic extension. If your arm or your shoulders are a bit too sensitive, you can always just bend your elbows and have them more in this position if you need to. Otherwise, just go to full extension. This is a beautiful one that we can practice our breathing for 2 minutes.
going, let's do a little body scan. Another 45 seconds there. Let's do a nice little body scan. Just check in. Make sure you're nice and relaxed wherever you can be there. Breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. Trying to find that point of deep relaxation. Seconds to go. Lisa, just answering your question there. Yes, absolutely, it can be. The double leg probably adds a little bit more load on the lower back, just because the lower back ends up a little bit more rounding. And for anybody wondering what they want to talk about, Lisa asked, is that hamstring stretch just as effective if we do it one leg at a time? So it certainly can be, but the one leg at a time, your back is a little bit more neutral. The double leg, you actually get a bit more on the lumbar spine coming in. Feels a bit more, at least I find it a little bit more stretchy lower back wise as well as the hammy. All right, slowly coming out when you're ready. Walk your way up with your hands into your back, and let's just do a couple little cat cows just to reach back after that longer stretch. The last thing we're going to finish with is we're just going to finish the session off just with some, back to kind of what we did at the beginning, which is some diaphragmatic breathing. So last one, let's hop onto our back. Hands wherever you like this time on your belly. I generally like down by my side, up to you at this point. And let's just do 3 deep breaths. I want you to take deep breaths here, so I want about an 8-second inhale, so very slow, long inhale, followed by a 4-second slow, long exhale. Shoulders in the back. So that is our mobility session for the back. We've gone through a fair bit, but really what I want you to mainly take away is breath work is important for this stuff. You want to do these things mindfully with good intent, with good purpose. That's how we get the most out of this kind of stuff. And when it comes to stretching, we really want to do longer holds, finding that 7 out of 10 intensity, that intensity that feels quite intense, but you can still maintain your deep breath work. What you might do stretching wise if you want, I'm a big fan of stretching before you go to bed, even if it's just pick one stretch, hold it for 2 to 5 minutes or so. You know, if you want to do more, but it's a really nice way to finish your day. It sets your brain up for a really good night's rest. You go to bed feeling like $1 million when you stretch before bed. So that's a nice little way just to incorporate stretching a little bit more into your day. Now you will have a program that has been sent to you. I think it came in the first email. So use the program. It's got lots of these exercises in. It goes through a couple of little principles and a few little things to keep in mind. But the key with all this stuff at the end of the day is consistency. Doing one stretch session is fantastic. It feels really good. But the reality is if you did it a little bit each day for a year or however long, you'll find tremendous changes. It all happens in the consistency of it. So if there are any questions, you can just take yourself off mute and let me know, and we can go through any questions if there are.
None from me, Dan. That was great. Thanks.
Good, good. Excellent. Nothing new for you though.
I actually found that really quite challenging. It was good. Yeah, I'm quite stiff from a session.
Yeah.
Yesterday and today, so yeah, it was quite challenging. It's good.
Good. That's what we want. And yeah, it's just It's great for recovery after a session, this kind of stuff. Even the activation, when muscles are a bit sore, it helps really pump blood in, and it helps kind of flush out the what are called metabolites, which are all those things that build up when we say do some strength work. Helps kind of flush those things, which helps in regards to your recovery as well. Perfect. But yeah, if there's no other questions, we'll call it a night. Everyone can go have dinner if you haven't already. Ryan has, but anybody else who hasn't. And yeah, keep an eye out. We'll do a hamstring hip flexor one next time. And if you have any requests, this is kind of newish for us. We've done a few webinars over the years, but kind of being really consistent, trying to just give to our community, help people with aches and pains and whatnot. Is what we're aiming for. So if you have any particular requests or anything, just let me know, and we'll, if there are common issues, we'll just turn them into webinars, and yeah, we can make it something valuable for people. But otherwise,
Great. Thanks very much, Dan.
Good to see you all. We'll see you soon.
Have a good night.
You too.
See ya.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
See you around. Bye, Fiona.